named the second video series Return to Track Days and knew after having the best summer of my life that this season I was going to go all in. I sold nearly every vehicle I owned from 2017, which included the 2003 CBR 954 and the 2007 CBR 1000, my Cadillac Escalade, 12-foot enclosed trailer, and the biggest dollar item I had in my garage was a 370Z Roadster that spent the entire summer in the garage while I was playing on my bikes. Those sales made room for the replacements that included a 2013 Yamaha R1, a 2015 Yamaha R3, a 2014 Ninja 300 for my wife, a 2018 18-foot V-nose trailer, and a Ram truck to pull it with. And then came the upgrades. I got color matching bodies for all the bikes, and then I matched that scheme with the trailer and my truck. I figured I might as well make this stuff look good. I figured that since I was going to a small track that I could enhance my fun with a 125cc race certified shifter cart. I originally had plans to color match the cart and possibly start racing it, but I needed to focus on motorcycles if I was going to try to improve. During the season, I reserved the kart track 2 times and invited friends to come out and play. I called the first one Mega Mac 1. I invited Dave Moss, who is a well-known racer, videographer, and tuner. Plus, he attends track days and helps racers with their setups. He showed up early and worked with me on the R3.
Let go of the bars, make your fists, and now look, keep them off the bike, and just hold your fists out. Look at the mismatch now. It's huge. So, how can you steer with your wrist pushed out? And if you were truthfully to ride it properly so you could counter steer effectively with your hand, not your thumb, everybody would be riding with hyperextended elbows. So the first thing we do in a car...
I didn't know we were going to do this today.
No, well, it's important. The first thing we do in a car is adjust the seat, then the steering wheel, and we go from there. What's the first thing we do when we get on a motorcycle? Let's see what it will do. It's been our cultural way with that stance for decades. And if you're not comfortable and you're not ergonomically right, why are you riding the motorcycle in the first place? Buy the pieces that make the difference in making it comfortable and safe to ride so you can enjoy it rather than be beaten to death by it. So I'll go ahead and set the second bar so we can do that. And then you can go ride it and feel how much easier it is to actually ride it versus being pinned in because you're not 5'4".
There we go. As long as your elbow's close to your thigh, all is well with the world. So when your elbow goes really high, then it's not much fun. Because then there's a lot of stress put through your body. That's much better. Now keep the rhythm. See the corner, look ahead, because that middle corner wants to slow you down, but it shouldn't. Set up. Nice. Now bring it around, nice and steady. In we go. Excellent session.
So the guys that I got close to riding 600s in my first season were going through the Novice Championship, and so I was hanging out with those guys quite a bit. I interviewed each of them at different points and really started focusing on their series, and the guys in that group were all battling for the Novice Championship, so it was kind of a no-brainer that I really start following that closer, since I already had footage and interviews with those guys.
So we went into the start of the race, and Jeff, why don't you tell me how it went for you?
I had a great start. Was just really focused on trying to get to turn one before Pierce, and I did it. He came up alongside me. I watched him. Let off the throttle, hit the brakes, and I said, "That's my turn." And I entered turn one right before him, and I just focused on trying to stay in front.
But I knew he was close, and especially when I didn't see him out of 7, I said, "Oh, he's coming out of 9." And my goal was out of turn 9 was just, whether I thought I had traction or not, was just roll back on the throttle. And I think that bought me that, what was it, 2/100ths of a second.
And I pulled out of his draft, and I was just really surprised that, wow, I don't remember the checkered being that right there. And it was somebody moved.
I think he wanted another 10 feet.
Yeah, another 10 feet would have had it.
So it was a fun race, and it was great racing with Pierce.
What does that do for the points then? There was obviously a shift.
This leaves that left me up 1 point in the championship. So he was 4 points ahead. The difference between first and second is 5 points. So that leaves me 1 point up. So going into Sunday's the make it or break it, I have to beat him in order to secure the championship. He just has to not lose to me.
It was one of the closest finishes that OMRRA's ever had, and as the championship actually turned out, it was one of the closest championships that they'd ever had as well. So it was a cool season, and both of them gave great effort, and Pierce wound up winning in the end when Jeff had a problem. But when you tell your friends that you're going to do a track day, they all ask the same question: have you drag a knee? I didn't admit the obvious, which was that of course I had dreams and desires to drag a knee, but after my first season of 5 track days, man, I wasn't even close. I mean, not anywhere near dragging a knee. With the R3 setup and a day riding with racers on the small track, the next time I was at the track, my wife noticed that I was getting very close to touching down on the left side. So before the next session, I went out and set up a video camera and aimed it at the corner I felt I might have the most likely chance to touch a knee. I headed out, and while my wife was aiming photos at a later corner that I'd be going to with her back to me, it happened. I touched down. Before getting to her, I had yelped and waved my arm, and she noticed I was excited as I stopped on the track and pointed at the scratch on my puck. I was so excited I came directly off the track at my pit and had her take a photo. I couldn't possibly describe how happy I was. I told her to go stand on that corner, and the next session I rode around, and on the second lap I touched down again. And this time she caught a photo of it. I immediately came off the track and then just went home. I posted that night on Facebook that I was officially a knee dragger, although that was a bit of a stretch since I was only a knee toucher. Just a few days later, I was back at the Mac track on the R3, and I drug every left-hander on the track both ways and had my first touchdown on the right side. I guess it's common because the right side's your throttle side, and for some reason that just was trickier to me, leaning off the bike and twisting that direction. I followed that up with my first actual knee dragging on a big track, and that was the next week at PIR on turn 3. Throughout that season, the guys kept saying I should think about racing, and I always just laughed that off. My last day out on the track, Alex Taylor, who runs the NRS school for OMRRA, was riding with me, and he spent that whole last session with me, and at the end of the day, he said it was something I really needed to consider. For some reason, that really pushed me over the top and got me to start considering really trying to race.